Oh, hello, dear friends. Oh, I'm excited to be with you. I'm Holly Elissa Bruno, and I missed last week because I was in the mountains of Kerala, India, up where the tea plantations are, up where the rubber plantations are, up where the pineapple plantations are, and up where there are leeches that get in your feet. We'll do a little bit more about that later. But for right now, I want to say I'm very happy to be with you. And I'm sad that Crystal, who was joining me for months, is taking a medical leave of absence. And I've asked her to share with us what she wants you to know. And she's reflecting on that. So I'm sad that she's going through her medical challenges. And I know that each one of us supports her 100%. So I miss having her right here with me so I can hear all these different perspectives, which I very much value. Okay, so wow, two trauma survivors walking each other home. We are so much more than our ACEs scores, and here we are, you and me, and Crystal in memory, on December 18th, 2023, and here we are in the midst of holidays. Perhaps you celebrated Hanukkah already. I went to the oldest synagogue in India. Um, it was remarkable to be there. Perhaps you celebrated Hanukkah already. Perhaps you're preparing to celebrate Kwanzaa. Perhaps you are in the midst of preparing for Christmas. Perhaps you're pagan and winter solstice is coming up. Whatever your choices are, they all have to do with this being a holiday season. And in the traditional 12-step programs, we used to call this the trifecta. You know what that means, the trifecta? Yeah. What it means is people start drinking to cover up their pain, and they start drinking on what in America is called Thanksgiving, which is the end of November, which is the harvest festival. And then keep drinking through winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, and keep drinking through Christmas and keep drinking through Kwanzaa now and keep drinking through New Year's. And in my case, there are like 1, 2, 3, 4 birthdays in my family. One, my son was on the 12th, my grandson is on the 20th, I'm on the 31st, my daughter's on the 6th, and oh my God, my granddaughter is on the 14th, I think. So there you go. That's a lot of birthdays. And that's what we're going to talk about today, if you're okay with that. Let's talk about what it's like to be a trauma survivor. And the first words that came to me are trauma survivor going through the holidays. But wait a minute, who just wants to go through something? I don't want to just go through my life. As a friend on the West Coast, on the islands of Washington State, used to say, I don't want to just be sleepwalking through life. So when we look at the topic, and right, let me know if you have other topics. I'm not sure we're connected really well because I need to get more information out to you, which I promise you and me I will, about how to log in so you can participate in this program. Anyway, the holidays and trauma survivors are really potentially beautiful, often explosive, sometimes heart-wrenching, sometimes the loneliest times of the year, sometimes the most yearning parts of the year. What are they for you? And that's what I'm asking. What are they for you? When you think of being a survivor, or you think of your survivor friends, of which we are legion, how do the holidays sound? Were they wonderful? I mean, I wanted them. Did you not want the holidays to be wonderful? I wanted Santa Claus to come down that chimney. I don't care if he got soot all over his bottom. I just want him to come right down and bring me something that surprised me, that I really wanted, that I could have as my own and play with. And I wanted people to love each other. I wanted people to be happy with each other. I wanted people to hug each other and be grateful to see each other. I wanted people to have a good time and laugh with each other, to dance, to sing carols. I wanted connection. I wanted loving connection more than anything else during the holidays. And yet I was in a frozen family, not frozen like the kids' movie, well, sort of, but more frozen into such grave pain that there wasn't joy. My parents were both icebergs of shame and sadness and pretending. They taught me to pretend during the holidays that everything was fine, everything was good, everything was cheerful, but it was not at all. It was not at all. And yet, children come with a birthright to joy. And we come to the earth with an expectation of connection, of love. And I think of that research on, what is it called? The engagement, what you guys help me out here. What is Ainsworth's research called on how we, attachment? Yeah. I mean, did you have a great attachment situation? In functional families, apparently the attachment is that the child looks into the eyes of the caregiver, usually the mother, and sees a reflection of herself, a loved reflection of herself. What a great image. What a great thought. And when I was in India, I was like the minority, and I loved that. I was with this very small group of fellow travelers, and let's see, 5 of us were Chinese speaking, 5 of us were Hindu speaking. Yeah, one was Korean speaking. And then there were a few people that were English speaking. I mean, everybody spoke English, but it was not the first language of most people. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that. And I went to India for my 75th birthday. And I'm going to be 78 at the end of this month. And COVID came. COVID came. And I couldn't travel for my 75th birthday. But I'm talking about my 75th birthday and the wonder of having given myself what I've needed my whole life when I didn't get it from a family that was frozen, when I didn't get it from a family that didn't know how to love themselves, when I didn't get it from people that didn't know about love. I just read something quite beautiful. Maybe it was from Nancy Rosenau. I'm not sure, but it's quite beautiful. And it said, because I've been saying, I'm here to learn all about love. And here's what I read. See what you think, see what you feel. We're not here to learn about love. We're here to remember that we know how to love. So how about that as a core to our holiday session this week, December 18th, 2023. How does a trauma survivor live, thrive, claim her true self, and or survive, get through the holidays, whatever religion you are or aren't, whether you're pagan or you're atheist, whatever. The winter time when the light goes low is a time for reflection. And it's also a time for depression. It's a time for depression. I watch every day these days going shorter and shorter. And I think, oh, come on. I need more light. Do you? Do you feel that way? I need more light. So going to India was fantastic because the streets were alive every night. People were on the streets. There was music, there was singing, there were like night markets, people outside. It was like, oh, I loved it. Shops open, people walking, people talking, people selling coconuts. You buy a coconut. I bought a red coconut, and the man lopped off the top of the coconut, stuck a paper, like a bamboo straw or something in it. And it was the most refreshing thing on those 95-degree days to get those energizers from inside the coconut. I loved it. So I feel that the challenge with the holidays is a matter of expectation. It's a matter of letting go. For me, I'm talking for me now. It's a matter of forming new expectations. Most of us are given a boatload of expectations, what we're supposed to do, what we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to celebrate, who we're supposed to visit, how much time we spend with each family, what kind of gifts we get for people. We have a lot of expectations. And in traditional 12-step programs, like they talk about the trifecta, the drinking season, where people who are hurting drink or self-medicate in other ways to let go of the pain, that there's so much pain that trauma survivors have inside of us. The wounded, we want not to be wounded for a while. We want to walk like everybody else. We want to see like everybody else. We want to feel like everybody else. This is my henna, by the way, the remaining henna. You see my hands. They were beautiful. Oh my God, there were those henna on my fingernails. I love that. So expectations, the other 12 step saying is an expectation is what? A resentment waiting to happen. If I reflect upon that, and I invite you to reflect upon that, what is the resentment waiting to happen? And for me, and I think I'll just speak of me, I had this image that at Christmas time, because my family was Christian, that at Christmas time, there would be joy to the world. There would be peace on earth. There would be fellowship. There would be people loving each other. There would be gifts freely given without strings. There would be hugs. There would be celebration. There would be rejoicing, and there would be absolute awe, astoundment, being astonished at the beginning of new life. I mean, the Christian story is that this baby is born in a manger. Nobody would have him. So he's born in a manger. Yeah. Well, how many stories are there where people without come to the earth and they become people who make sure that everybody has something loving? I'm thinking, for example, of our senator, Raphael Warnock from Georgia. Raphael Warnock was one of, I don't know, 8 kids. That's what my families were, maybe 12 kids. But his mother picked cotton. Raphael Warnock's mother picked cotton in Georgia. And she said to him, the hands that pick cotton are now picking the next senator. My son. There's something so beautiful about that promise, isn't there? That a baby born in a barn where animals are. I mean, we love animals, right? But it's not what we have today in hospitals where everything is protected, everything is sterile, everything is clear and safe, everything is anesthetic. No, this baby was born with the animals lowing, the cattle are lowing. And Raphael Warnock was born to this large family where the parents picked cotton. And you know what happened with him? And I love this because it says a lot about early childhood care and love and education for children. So Raphael went to Head Start. And the core principles of Head Start are to help each child see her worthiness, to help each child and each teacher and each family understand their giftedness. And Raphael Warnock got that. And somehow the Christ child got that, despite all of the stuff that came their way. And maybe there's a deeper understanding here for trauma survivors about Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and the solstice. For me, the surface meaning went deep. And the surface meaning was, we're going to be happy now. Doesn't matter if this life is a veil of tears. We're going to be happy at the holidays and celebrate. It's going to be a great thing to go visit all these people in Olean, New York, and Bolivar. We can drive through Bolivar, New York, and go to Rochester, New York. It's going to be a great thing. Everybody's going to be happy. It's going to be a great amount of food. There'll be a lot of laughing. But there wasn't, because in dysfunctional families, people may want very much to bring joy, but what connects us is the puddle of tears. So I, as a child, believed in Christmas. I believed in Christmas. I still believe in the promise of Christmas, but I believed that there would be families coming together in joy. to enjoy. I'm trying to get more light here, these dark days. Yeah. And when my family came together, it was very dark. I remember rules more than feelings of joy. I remember a rule: always be grateful for what you've got. Always say thank you. Never, never frown. No one likes to see a girl with a frown on her face. Never complain. Always thank the person for whatever gift you got. And so when my neurodiverse son, experienced his first holidays, and that those were Jewish holidays, Hanukkah and Christmas, if he got a gift he didn't like, he was honest. And I credit him with that. He was honest. He would say, I don't want that. And actually, one of his cousins from the celebrating Hanukkah would throw down. I gave her a book. I thought she'd really like it because it was named after her uncle. It was called Ira Sleeps Over. And I thought, great, we can read this together. She threw it down. I don't want another book. Another book. Who needs another book? Look at the difference between my upbringing, where we had no choice but to pretend, to act as if we were happy with whatever we got, and the next generation who was allowed to say, that's not what I want. Don't give me that. And there's a whole other topic we could tease out right there. And yet, the really underlying topic is, where's the joy? Whether we're taught ground rules of saying thank you, please, and thank you, which I got. Did you get those? Or whether we're allowed to say, it's really not what I wanted. I'm going to tell you the story I remember forever about working with my son, Nicolo. So I call him Cole sometimes and Nick other times. He was really clear about what he wanted, but a lot of relatives didn't get this 5, 6, 7-year-old little guy who was neurodiverse. And so they'd give him things that were typical, stuff that he wouldn't use and couldn't use. And he would be very upset. And so I worked with him in advance. I worked with him. And hello, Nick, Emma. Yeah, we've got a meeting going on, and we'll have to connect next week because it's not working out today. But I worked with Nick long in advance because I saw the faces of the relatives who were saying, Nick, here's a gift for you, and waiting for him to open it. And he opened it, and he did like my niece did. He threw it on the ground and said, I don't want, that's not what I wanted. So we worked together, Nick and I, for a long time. And his sister Lily sat there too, although she knew how to say please and thank you. Nick didn't, it was not part of his universe. If you want something, he would told the truth. If the dysfunctional family rules are don't talk, don't trust, don't feel, for Nick, his truth was, I'm going to tell you about it. I'm going to tell you how I feel. And I'm going to trust that I'm telling you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. So I work with Nick and I said, Cole, do you want to get gifts that you'd really like from people? I do. But they don't give me gifts like that. So I said, well, let's look at this. If you want to get gifts that you really like, what do you think you might do? Well, tell them what I want. Well, now, Nick, that's a really good idea. What if we let people know in advance the kinds of things you'd like? How about that? So let's make a list and let's give it to people. Now, they may or may not choose to follow it, but at least they'll know. So that one worked. That part worked. But then I said, but Nick, there'll be still people giving you gifts that they think you like that you won't like. Are they giving you a gift? No, they're not giving me a gift. Okay, let's step back. What's a gift? I mean, I'm talking with him at age appropriate, I hope. So what's a gift, Nick? If you were to give a gift, I don't give gifts, and he didn't. Nick is not a gift giver. Worked with him on that for years. He's rarely a gift giver. There were times when I was a single mom with him that he would go with me and we would pick out a plant for my garden, or we'd pick out a plant. And he knew that I love plants. And so that's That was something we did together. That was a gift. And I really valued that. But to Nick, a gift is receiving something that he really wants. And he had a lot of things he really loved. That's a good thing. So we talked about what a gift was. And it turned out there was somebody else giving you something that they wanted to they wanted you to have because they thought it would bring you happiness. And we went through a long time about what if the gift doesn't bring you happiness. I said, well, wait a minute, let's go back. If someone's giving you a gift and they think it's going to make you happy, do you want to at least say to them, thank you for thinking of me because they thought of you and bought this gift, but they didn't give me the right gift? Okay, I hear you. We're working on how to let them know what the right gift for you is. But if someone takes the time to go shopping, this is before Amazon, go shopping and pick out something that they think will bring you joy, and they wrap it up and they bring it or they send it to you, have they been thinking about you? Yeah, but they're not thinking the right thing. Okay, I hear you. But did they take time? Yeah. Did they go shopping? Yeah. Does that take time? Oh, yeah. Um, did they wrap it? I hate to wrap gifts, he said. Well, you know what? Yeah. So look at the time and the effort that this person put in. So you can't say thanks for the gift because that's not true. You don't love the gift. But you can say what's true to say, Cole. And what we came up with was thank you for thinking of me. We practiced that over and over again until it became non-robotic. And when he got a gift that he didn't like, it was written all over his face and his body, but then he'd recover himself and he said, thank you for thinking of me. And next year, here's what I'd really like. I've noticed that since then, I mean, that Nick is 40, so that was like, wow, 3 decades ago, more than 3 decades ago. That, of late, the last couple of decades, maybe more, families just write down, this is my wish list, this is what I want. And that way people aren't disappointed. So the story about my son, Cole, my neurodiverse son, who wanted something and didn't get it and was disappointed, there it is. There's the story of the holidays. When we want something that we want very dearly and we don't get it. And for trauma survivors, what do you want? What does every trauma survivor want? To feel lovable and to feel loved, to feel wanted, to feel seen, to feel understood, to feel understood. And that's what we want. And we're not getting that much of the year, if not all the rest of the year, we're not getting it. But here's this season that promises rebirth, a season that promises community, a season that promises new light. All of these different religious and spiritual and community, whether it's Kwanzaa, all of these belief systems are about reminding us what matters. What matters, and what matters to a child is love. Well, hell, what matters to an adult is love. What matters to everybody is being loved. I was in India, and it was a fascinating thing that was going on with me. People would often stop me and they'd want to take their picture with me. Of course, I did that. And I would talk with them the way in Southern India was to say who I was and where I was from and ask them where they were from. And if English wasn't spoken, not a problem. But what they were doing is they wanted a picture of this woman who had this tricolor, four-color hair, quadricolor hair, mostly looking purple, and very colorful clothes. And they wanted to talk with me. And my guide, who had been a monk, said to me, I understand it. He said, your hair is your aura. People look at you and they see this royal aura, someone who seems quite content. And they look at your clothing and they see someone who seems quite alive at any age and enjoying this moment. As I said, on this trip, I was a small tour, and everybody was coupled up. Everybody had a partner, whether it was a good friend or a life partner. And then there was me. I was good with that. I was good with that. And when I needed help, I asked for it. Man, to climb some of these temple stairs, there's no railings on some of these temple stairs. And the rule is with Hindu temples to be respectful. I get that. Gotta take your shoes off. And honey, it's damp and it's wet. And I'm thinking, so I would ask for help. Raj, the guy, Raj, help me up the stairs. Raj, help me down. And he did. And then there were other people, Bart, the cardiologist in front of me. He would like stand in front of me as I went down steps. There were other people who were just so helpful. They were just so helpful. And I'm talking about this because this is the holiday season where we look at the meaning and the promise of life. And to you, my friends, what is the promise? What is the promise? And I'll ask myself that too. What's the promise? It's about, for me, being in love, not in a romantic fantasy, being in love with life, being in love with the world, realizing that this orchid that suddenly appears in front of me, and they did, beautiful orchids just coming out of trees. Ah, that I stopped in those moments to photograph those orchids. And before I photographed them, I just looked at those orchids. The faces of people, I got up at like 5 a.m. to go walk the marketplace in Madurai, walk the marketplace before people, well, only the marketers were up, to meet the people, to meet this little guy who was celebrating his 7th birthday. And this little guy was raised so strictly that when somebody offered him a birthday gift, he said, no, I can't take something just for myself. So they caught on and they got him a sweet that he could give away. So he came around giving each one of us one of his sweets, but he had plenty left over. But there it is. At times of holiness, where does the holiness come from in your life? There's a freedom. And the freedom is no longer being beholden to things that don't matter, no longer paying obedience to things that are not us. It's living out loud or living gently, softly in the moment and seeing the beauty. And as I approach 78, honeys, I'm really taking this to heart. I mean, I have been in places in the last 17 days I'd never seen before. I mean, I have trekked, I have walked the face of this world because that's one of the things I promised myself I needed to do. When I was 22, I said, I need to feel at home. I want to feel at home anywhere on earth. And so I've gone to the most out of the way places on earth for me. Kathmandu before the earthquake, northern Thailand, walking up in the mountains with the women whose necks were stretched and talking with them. Have you seen the women that wear all these rings and rings and rings, and they can't take those off or they'll die? They'll die. Or being in the high mountains of Kerala, if you've read Dr. Abraham Verghese, I used to say Verghese, but Dr. Abraham Verghese, Covenant of Water, you know this land. And there I was high up in the mountains, and I chose not to get up. There were 2 5 a.m. get ups. I would get up for the marketplace. I didn't want to get up to go out in the rainforest to see the lions and tigers because I knew the chances weren't great. I was tired, and it was going to be really wet and muddy, and I'd had enough wet and muddy. So I didn't do it. What a gift. That's what happens. I'm going to talk with you about leeches. Oh my goodness. Remember African Queen with Mr. Olna with Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn? And there's a time when the backwater gets very calm, and Bogart has to get in the water with a rope around over his shoulder, pull, pull, pull that boat through the waters. And when he gets out at night, it's terrifying. Why? Because his back is infested. And I won't go into this in case it creeps you like it creeps me, infested with these leeches. And they've got to get all these leeches off him. So I didn't expect when I was touring southern India that there would be a similar challenge. But guess what? In these high mountain areas in Kerala, there are leeches. They're not like the ones I'm used to here. I used to swim in a lake in northern Maine because I didn't have running water when I was with legal aid. I had electricity, but not running water. So every morning I'd get up and I'd go for a swim in the lake. And I'd have to be fast because once the leeches caught on, they would be, I say, see you guys, I'm out of here. But in this case, these leeches were small, thin finger, like 1/3 of a finger thick, and they could go through your shoes and through your socks. And honey, they did. They also were like ticks in New England. You'd be walking by, brushing by a tree, they'd stick right on you. And you wouldn't notice it. Wouldn't notice it. One of my friends from China said, I started itching all over. And then I started looking and I said, that's enough for me to hear. So these people that went on the early morning walk, they came back covered with these ribbons, these dark ribbons of leeches that were sucking their blood. So we made a lot of jokes about, did you get healed? I mean, because back in the day, right? Still, in some cases, people do leeches to take out the bad humors or whatever. But why am I talking about this? Because it was part of the wonder. Why am I talking about wonder? Because this holiday season is about wonder. It's about the wonder of light returning, winter solstice. It's about the wonder of a baby being born that's going to be able to change the world. It's about the wonder with Kwanzaa of a community coming together and lifting itself and lifting everybody else to be loving, to have unity, to bring out the best in each other. And Hanukkah, it's about a group of people that has been abused and abused and abused coming together and making it through in a way where they can love each other. Now, that's my take. And so let me tell you what I did, because I was raised in a family where there was no joy at Christmas. There were a lot of shoulds at Christmas. There was a command, you will be grateful for everything you got. And sometimes I would get packs of underwear. And honey, packs of underwear, not so exciting, but I'd open them up. My sisters, we all got equal. Didn't matter, whatever. We all got equal. So we'd all get these yucky white underwear. Then we get some packs of socks. I don't ever remember getting a book. My family was not, they didn't read books. I didn't have children's books. That's very sad. I don't remember Happy Christmas. It's sad to say that, but that's the truth. And so when I became an adult and put away my childish things, I remembered what mattered to me. But I became an adult and I started realizing, and it's taken me 7 going on 8 decades to realize I, as a trauma survivor, have a right to be astounded. I have a right to be joyful. I have a right to be playful. I have a right to explore the world. I have a right to be gentle and kind and loving to myself. And so I do these extraordinary things, which would have been a shame on you in my upbringing, because my upbringing said, don't you dare do anything for yourself. You take care of everybody else first, especially when you have children. Well, I do look out for those that I want to look out for. But I also say, Holly Elissa Bruno, you have a right to joy. And so 3 years ago, I booked this journey, 17-day adventure through a part of India where I've never been. I have been to India. I have loved India. I have been to Jaipur. I have been to Punjab. I have been to the mountains that go into Nepal. I have been to Pune and Bengaluru and Hyderabad and Charminar and all of these places. I adore India. It's a very other world. I adore it. I'd never been to this part of India, and I didn't know that I was going to end up reading. I love it when things work like this. I was going to read Verghese' book, Covenant of Water, which was all based in Kerala, all based where I was going to be exploring. But I simply gave myself this gift of adventure, but more deeply, of being true to myself. Because I know when I travel, I can either take expectations about the way things should be. I know people that travel and it's their way. They go get food at Mickey D's if there's a Mickey D's, or India now has Kentucky Fried Chicken. Yeah, and people got that. And that's okay. But for me, when I go to another place, I'm there to be in the other place. And one morning, when someone had put a really, really crimson bindi on me, and they often were putting bindis on me, I turned to the guide. We were talking, we had a lot of really spiritual conversations. And he said to me, "You know, you belong here." And that warms my heart still. You belong here. Because it's not just because Abraham Lieberman says the most pressing need any of us has is not to eat or drink or sleep. Those are important, but the more important thing is to belong. And traumatized children don't belong. We just feel like we don't belong. And so we go on a quest to see where we'll belong. And how brave was it for the little girl who was rejected over and over again to choose to go? I chose to take Hollywog on this trip, 14 and a half hour flight to Doha, and then a 5.5 hour flight to Chennai, or from Kochi back to Doha, not knowing anyone, not knowing the language, and still feeling this is where I'm meant to be. And so there it is. The gift that I chose to give myself was one of freedom to love, freedom to explore, freedom to see, freedom to experience. I saw things I've never seen before. I saw a miracle. There's a part of southern India where there are these huge boulders, these large rock formations. They look like gigantic whales or loaves of bread on top of the land. And what these people did in the 11th century, 10th century was to start from the top. Imagine you've got this boulder. You start from the top. This was a miracle that I saw it. And I was just so in awe. So the sculptor, the builder, starts from the top with his chisel and he builds down and through. So he's building the roof, but he's building down and through the roof, and down and through the roof, then he's building the floors, he's building the arches, they weren't really arches, he's building the pillars, and he's creating this remarkable carving, stone carving. How could somebody do that? I've been trying to. Can you see how to do that? How could someone start at the top of a rock and go down into the rock and create this whole edifice literally from the top down? How could somebody do that? They did. And that's what their architecture was. That's what their architecture was. And I remembered being in Paris at Rodin, the sculptor Rodin, being in his studio and seeing these hunks of granite and seeing life emerge from those hard rocks. And I thought, here it is. Here's the gift. This is one of the treasures of being on earth, that we can take nothing and through hope and faith and vision and spunk and pizzazz and badassery, having the courage to do stuff other people say, don't you dare do it, but they did it. Not only did they do this once in southern India, they did it over and over again. That was one form of structure that I'd never seen before, never seen it before. And then I went to temples that were high, 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 high up into the sky. And they were Hindu temples. And they were the most colorful temples of all. Each layer had Ganesh, had all of these figures, these gods and goddesses in all of these resplendent colors, with all of these stories being told. You know, back in the day before people wrote, stories were passed on by the campfire, or in southern India, probably by, I don't know, maybe sitting in one of these holy places. And that's how people communicated the meaning of life. And so as I was walking through these wonderful places, there were the stories, the stories, the stories unfolding through stone. And the thing about Rodin in Paris was I looked at that and the rock could seem to be untouchable, like a rock of, don't you ever get near me. Have you, as a trauma survivor, felt like that? I have. I have isolated. I've separated myself so much that I won't be hurt anymore. That's one of the pathways, isn't it, of being a trauma survivor. No one will ever hurt me again. I promised myself that as a child. No one will ever hurt me like this again. And I was given one pathway, destructive, but it was something that is part of the life of a traumatized child or adult. I was given dissociation. I knew how to go away. What I left behind was left behind to be beaten, incested, kicked, shamed, disdained. And that part of me that I left behind, my body, I always needed to return to. I always needed to return to. So when I saw that rock, that locked in rock in Paris, from which Rodin was creating these flowing sculptures, I mean, very moving sculptures. Been to Italy, there are these moving sculptures, like La Pieta, you know, the mother holding the lifeless child of her son, Christ. It's very moving, literally, that an artist can see movement in something that's stuck. And that's the message, my friends, about being a trauma survivor on the holidays. How can I see movement in myself when I was stuck for so many years, stuck in believing I was nothing, stuck in believing that I would never amount to anything, stuck in believing that life was a vale of tears. And then it's tough if you don't believe that everything's going to be beautiful after we die. And I didn't quite understand how that would work. In fact, I was talking with this Hindu monk, and he said, you know, I used to think about that too. He said, if we all went to heaven and everything was exactly the way we wanted it to be, it'd kind of be boring after a while. I said, well, I never didn't think about that. But what I thought about was, you know, we're all supposed to meet each other in the way that we're supposed to be perfect. Do I meet you when I'm 36? Do I meet you when you're 12? You know, that's not going to work. So anyway, I don't mean to debunk or in any way take away from anyone's belief. I want to say that the holidays are tough also for trauma survivors because we bump into beliefs. And when the beliefs come true and we can count on them, there's beauty in that. There's synergy. There's a beautiful beat in the background. And so I've had moments. I've had moments doing the Stations of the Cross with a largely Spanish-speaking group in Cambridge, Mass, all through the night, keeping vigil. And it was very moving to me. Whatever was moving, the ritual, the sounds, the beats, the centuries old nature of this ritual, the faith of the people who were there, the hope, the hope. See, holidays get us down to what really matters. And for trauma survivors, what really matters is what's been forbidden. And that's happiness, joy, and belonging. There was a story I read as a small child. Then one of my mother used to get ladies' home journal and stuff like that. I used to read them. And I read a story about Christmas child. Nobody wanted. And the Christmas child walked away one snowy day and just kept walking and kept walking through the town, through the forest, just kept walking. And very tired, came to a house. And the house had a couple in it and a Christmas tree. And this Christmas child just knew this is where I need to go. And very tired, the child walked up on the porch and said, "May I have Christmas with you?" And the family welcomed this child right away. And of course, the child got to stay and got adopted and all of that. And I believed that. I believed that on those snowy nights, if I just walked far enough, I might find a place where somebody wanted me. And that is the drama and that is the sadness of the traumatized child. We are the children that nobody wanted. We are the bothersome ones. We are the ones who have to earn our keep. We are the ones that take care of everybody. We are the parentified children. We're the ones to be not even seen, not even heard. And the holidays, my friends, and let's start wrapping this. The holidays can be very hard for us, but they can also be very loving for us. And I invite you now, as we come close to the end, there's a lot of sorrow, right? A lot of sorrow in all of these stories, in the Hanukkah story, in the story of Jesus, in the story of African Americans, Africans, in all of the stories, solstice, something dies, something has to be let go of. There's loss, there's pain, and yet the light returns. And there it is. There it is, my friends. The light returns. And I'm just learning this now. I'm just learning this now. Kind of crazy, but not. I learned last year. And I love what I said to myself, sweetie, it's going to be your birthday. And it is, December 31st. What would you really love to do? I thought of all the things I had done last year that I loved. And one of the most happy moments was I was working my tail off speaking at the Alabama AEYC conference. This is before Alabama had all of the challenges about developmentally appropriate practices. But there we were, bunches of us, and we were like giving workshops, and the workshops are going great. And I'm loving the people, and I'm walking back and forth my hotel and giving all these sessions. And one night I'm just exhausted. And I'm walking back and I look up and I see this thing called Winsel's Oyster Bar. I'm going, Winsel's Oyster Bar. Let me look at this. It looks like it's been there for a long time. And in fact, it was there since the 1940s. I walk in and there it is. These guys shucking oysters. People sitting around eating raw oysters, sitting around eating every style oyster you could imagine. I said, honey, I'm in heaven. I'm in heaven. So I walked into Winsel's Oyster Bar and I sat at the bar and I sat with Elmer, the man who'd been shucking there for 30 years, and he shucked me the best oysters. And then I got some more oysters. And then I got a fried oyster salad. Wow. And then I got the dessert, which was homemade bread pudding. And it was bliss. And not only that, there were people sitting at the end of the bar saying, aren't you Holly Bruno? I said, yeah. Well, we remember you from said, no kidding. I'm really glad to see you. I don't remember people's names, but I remember a lot of faces. I'm going, hi, well, tell me about where we were together. And they told me, and we were starting to remember that, and we hugged. And then we sat there just talking. And that moment, there it is, the promise, love, connection, seeing what we love, doing what we love, feeling love, taking care of ourselves, being kind, appreciating the beauty, appreciating the holiness in every day. So I said to myself last December, okay, I've hurt my knee and I can't go to India this year. So what do I want to do? So I bought myself a ticket to Mobile, Alabama. And I rented myself a room at a a Hampton Inn or something near Wenzel's Oyster Bar, which is out, there's a couple of them, and there's one out near the airport. I checked into that hotel, I took a nap, and I walked myself on over to Wenzel's Oyster Bar. And I said to the whole room, I did. I said, guys, it's my birthday. It's my birthday. And I came down from Boston, Massachusetts to celebrate my birthday. I want to wish you all well, a happy new year to all of you. People like whistling and hooting and all this stuff, and they want to send me drinks and stuff. And, it's just really, really, really nice. I had the best meal and I befriended people, and I went back to the hotel and I slept really well. And so what did I do this year? I booked myself another flight. I'm just less than a week back from Kerala, India, but I booked this flight because I didn't know if I was going to be able to go to India. There were all kinds of medical things, and they all worked out. But no matter what, I was going to go have me my oysters. So that's what I'm doing, my friends. Tonight I'm driving up to the airport, spend the night at the airport so I can get my 5:44 a.m. flight to Charlotte to Mobile. I'll get me some oysters. I'll chat up with everybody. I'll have a beautiful time, and then I'll come home. What's this about? I had a terrible sadness inside of me for years as a survivor, and the sadness was one that I didn't think could ever go away. I had a terrible loneliness inside of me as a survivor. I didn't think it would ever go away. And I had a most horrible shame defining me, and I never thought it would go away. And slowly, in recovery, in facing the truth, yeah, those things happened. Yeah, they were hell. Yeah, those things should not happen to any child, but they do. Is there hope? Is there joy? Is there sadness? Is there purpose? Yeah. So I say to you, as a trauma survivor, be loving to yourself. I know that's like saying relax when you don't know how to relax. Trust me, I am still learning how to be loving to myself, but giving myself gifts to do things that I love. It's not everybody that would love going to the 95-degree weather in southern India, climbing these steps when you're 77 years old. I really needed help, and I asked for it. It's not everybody that would be willing to ride a bus up and over the mountains, but honey, I saw the clouds rising. I saw the pineapple plantations planted near the rubber trees because pineapples produce right away. Rubber trees take 50 years. So they plant them together. How smart is that? I drove by the tea plantations, and there were people out there picking leaves of tea. And I said, Rajesh, Raj, wait a minute. Are they getting those leeches? And he said, yeah. I said, wait a minute. After all these centuries, there's got to be something people can do to prevent those leeches, right? Because it could make you anemic after a while. He said, well, there are a couple choices. One choice we don't do anymore, and that was to put salt in your shoes because the salt got in the land and that messed up the taste of the tea. Okay, I said, I understood that. I grew up in the country, and to stop slugs from eating vegetables, put a saucer of salt. And if the slug started getting into the salt, it would retract because it didn't want to get imploded. Awful, but it's what was done. So the second thing was, I said, so if salt doesn't work, Raj, what does? And it was tobacco powder. So there are these people up there picking the tea leaves with the rains coming down and the leeches coming up, and they're packing their feet and hopefully their arms with tobacco. And I hope tobacco's healing for them. I don't know. But they're trying to keep the leeches away. Now, this is the truth of life. There's beauty. It was so beautiful up there. That's where all of the tamarind was growing, and that's where the spices were growing, and that's where the cinnamon was, and that's where the anise, the star anises could be plucked. It was totally beautiful. And yet there were leeches. So, my friends, on this week before it's the end of Hanukkah, Kwanzaa coming up, Christmas coming up, solstice coming up before we meet again, right? I think. Yeah. May you find your true self, the one that was told you can't exist. May you find it, claim it, love it, help it rest, help it clean up, help it heal, and help it at last rejoice that it's here on earth, which is a great gift. And there is beauty. And some of it is in you. Fairly well. I'll see you next week. And I'll have a report then, I hope, on Crystal. And have a lovely week.